so. Thanks, Anili. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me. I'm just going to be sharing some details around the process and the outcomes of the scientific assessment of shale gas development in South Africa. I'll just be providing a brief background on the South African context and the need for an assessment, then look into exactly how the process was undertaken and some key outcomes, how that was packaged as an output to support decision making, and some learning and looking ahead. So shale gas development is a highly polarized and contentious issue, and civil society struggles to have a holistic view of the potential risks and opportunities. On the one hand, you have potential economic benefits and energy security, but on the other hand, you have potential unacceptable social and ecological consequences. And that's why there's a need for transparent and trusted information gathering and sharing platform or process. So in 2010, the Department of Mineral Resources received 5 exploration rights applications for shale gas in the Karoo from 3 different oil and gas companies. And the lack of South Africa's experience in the gas sector, as well as the uncertainties around the potential unacceptable consequences, stimulated government to commission an independent scientific assessment into the potential risks and opportunities of shale gas development. So the scientific assessment was coordinated by the CSIR in collaboration with the South African National Biodiversity Institute and the Council for Geosciences. And it was phase 2 of an overarching strategic environmental assessment. Throughout the entire process, there was ongoing engagement with government, stakeholders, governance groups, and media communication. And one of the key things that built trust in the process and the outcomes of the process was the integrated project governance. We had a project executive committee that was basically like the project management group, and they consisted of the national departments that commissioned the study, as well as the provincial departments that where shale gas is being proposed in the Karoo. Then we had a process custodian group, and their role was process oversight, and that consisted of, again, government departments, and then non-government organizations, most notably Treasure Karoo Action Group, which is the largest anti-fracking lobby in South Africa. We also had research and academia representing on that group, and then industry, specifically the 3 oil and gas companies that lodged the application in the Karoo. So we had Treasure Karoo Action Group, anti-fracking lobby, and industry actually sitting around a table and making sure that the process is being undertaken in a fair and transparent manner. An important part of the assessment was the stakeholder outreach. It was open for all South Africans to participate. In the end, we had approximately 600 stakeholders registered on our database, and we had 2 rounds of public meetings in Graaff-Reinet, Beaufort West, and Victoria West. The first time we went to scope the people's concerns and issues. What are they concerned about in terms of shale gas development? And when we went back, we presented them with the findings of the assessment. We had a project website, which was the main portal for sharing all the information and also getting comments from civil society. All the chapters, draft chapters, were available for review by literally anybody in the world, and we had a lot of comments coming in. Our main communication tools, the website, SMS, radio, public meetings, newspapers, and most of the notices for the meetings were trilingual as well. So this is the study area. You can see the 5 exploration rights application blocks there, and it covers approximately 170,000 square kilometers in the Karoo. There were 18 chapters. The first chapter was like a project description chapter, and then 17 topics that were investigated. And these span from the biophysical type issues, like biodiversity, to the more hard economic, spatial, planning and infrastructure topics, and also into the more softer, fluffy, social fabric type issues. We had 146 people working in teams, expert authors, but experts aren't necessarily scientists, like Bob mentioned. We had farmers working on the agricultural chapter. We had artists and writers working on the sense of place chapter, so trying to incorporate that indigenous knowledge. And then we had 75 peer reviewers from South Africa and across the globe. Apart from CSIR coordinating the process from a project management perspective, we also led issued chapters and provided specialist input into these 7 topics. Phil Hobbs, sitting in the audience, contributed greatly in the water chapter. So the first step was to develop plausible scenarios for shale gas development going forward in relation to a reference case. So the Karoo isn't a static place. There's a lot of changes happening in the Karoo. There's renewable energy development, uranium mining, climate change, and people migrating out of rural areas and into cities. So it's definitely not as rustig as one might think. Then our first scenario was exploration only, where we assumed that the industry would undertake seismic surveys and do some test wells, but would not find an economically viable resource. They would decommission and abandon their pursuits. Then we have a small gas scenario, assuming about 5 trillion cubic feet of economically recoverable gas, and 1 combined cycle gas turbine to generate electricity. And big gas at 20 TCF with 2 CCGTs and 1 gas to liquids plant. And so our authors had to assess for each chapter under each scenario the risks and opportunities of shale gas development, where risk is the consequence of an impact considered in relation to the likelihood of it occurring. And they also had to assess it with and without mitigation, where mitigation assumes effective implementation of best practice, adequate institutional governance, and responsible decision-making. And some key risks that came out, these are just the few that I've highlighted here. If you're interested in more, please refer to the 1,000-plus page book. Some key risks and opportunities here is that there's definitely no water available in the Karoo for shale gas development. All water resources locally are fully allocated, so they would have to get their water from somewhere else. Surface spills are the most likely source of water contamination when transporting fracking fluids or liquid waste. And local municipal landfills and water treatment facilities are not equipped to deal with the waste from shale gas development. There would be employment opportunities, however, maybe not as much for local unskilled people. And the achievement of long-term macroeconomic benefits really depend on how the proceeds from shale gas development is spent. There's a risk of creating boomtown conditions where large investments into small towns create a new sense of place, a new social fabric, and when the resource is depleted, the smaller towns sit with a new social fabric that they cannot sustain. And then the increased volumes of heavy vehicles will place immense pressures on existing road infrastructure, which has a whole range of knock-on effects, and there's a potential there to investigate rail to transport the gear and all the materials needed for shale gas development. But at a strategic sort of overarching level, there are no fatal flaws with exploration. But South Africa really needs to build institutional capacity to be able to deal with this new industry. And avoidance is the best. Sorry, I sounded like Donald Trump for a minute. The best. Most risks can be mitigated, even at production scale, if basic avoidance is applied, especially of highly sensitive surface and subsurface features. So we packaged all the findings from the scientific assessment as a decision support framework that specifically aims to assist government in making responsible decisions around shale gas development. And these included spatial sensitivity, mapping and risk modeling, limits of acceptable change, minimum information requirements to guide industry on how they should proceed with the environmental impact assessments to make sure all the information is presented to the authorities that they need to make the responsible decisions, and just some high-level strategic management actions for government. So, learning and looking ahead, in conclusion, the scientific assessment is based on principles of saliency, legitimacy, and credibility, and it's effective to assess complex issues. It produces evidence-based outputs to guide decision-making on industrial development, and we've definitely strengthened the CSIR capability in facilitating these large, complex assessments that are of national interest. And this learning is being applied in other strategic and industrial development initiatives in support of the NDP. We are currently busy with a similar process for aquaculture development, and then also for gas pipeline corridors. Thank you.